Establishing a quorum, we're all good with that.
Yep.
That's no change.
Rosenberg's,
Page 2.
Page 1 on it.
You got it all back?
yeah, right there. That's just, the part at the beginning is the recent changes, okay? Rosenberg Rules of Order, Greg Dorman suggested because they're much easier to operate and they're more simpler for our council operations than what Robert's Rules of Order are. After reading through them, is that a fair statement to say?
Yeah, they're shorter and easier to understand.
They're easier to understand, and part of the reason that you see the table of contents is there is no how to be a council member manual. When I joined planning and zoning, planning and zoning gives you a little book, how to be a planning and zoning commissioner. We don't have that as a council member, so we decided this was a little easier, and this also really explains the process. And that would be from pages 1 through 14 or 15. So I don't think there's any controversy that I'm aware of on any of that, okay?
Okay, so establishing quorum, I want you to go with that.
Okay.
The role of the chair, what's different with that, Megan? Is that anything different?
Nope.
No,
All right,
not really.
easy. Go to
But there's one thing in the chair that I think we need to try to adhere to more, and that's where the chair should play a less active role in debate and discussion.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes we get off track with that.
I agree with that. Where's that at, John? Is that on here?
That's
It's in
rule
there
of the
now.
chair,
It's rule 2 of section
letter
2.
B.
Okay. The other thing is there's also, under the powers of the chair, prior to these rules, the council chair could prohibit something from going on the ballot, or on the agenda rather. Okay, it's in there, okay? Now, for instance, if I as chair did not want something on the agenda, another council member, how do we word that? Do we have just another council member? We have a second, I think.
Two council
Two
members.
council members can put it on the agenda. So you can actually override a council chair to get something on the agenda. Other changes to duties and powers of the council chair that you're aware of, Megan?
I don't think so. Everything up until page 14, those are general things that have always applied. So they're nothing specific to this council. So if you want to skip forward,
Yeah.
Yes.
page 14 is where the substance starts.
Yep. Election of county council officers, the method of that, if you folks aren't good with that. I
That's
would-
rule
Yeah,
5
that's-
on page 15,
That
right?
was changed
Yep.
a lot.
We could,
Just cross that off.
Yeah, I would move we strike that.
yeah. Now, next question is, how do you plan on doing planning and zoning?
I say we keep it just the way it is. If whoever wants to do it, does it.
That's easier for you to say, because you've never served on it. That man served on it for 3 years, okay?
Why not?
So, four, okay?
Yeah, but you can't make somebody do it, because if they don't want to do it, they're not going to show up.
I know, or you just ask somebody else to do it.
Okay.
I mean, you're not,
I'd like to-
nobody appointed you for life to it, so,
Well-
anytime somebody wants off of it, they,
Well, then, put it this way, what if no one wants it? Okay, because no one gets paid for doing it, okay? So, I mean, that's the thing. I think we need to address it. If you don't want to address it in the rules, we can address it
then we
elsewhere.
have no one on it.
Okay? That's not good, because I haven't served on it for 2 years. It's pretty important that the council member that's on that plan and zoning commission provide feedback to the council when we make those decisions. Dave, you know that too.
Right.
Somebody needs to be on it, okay?
Well, I think, though, Joe, those are things we can work on amongst us. We don't have to make a rule for it. I
It
mean,
ain't worked for Dave for 4 years. I think it ought to rotate myself. I think it ought,
If you want it off of,
Dave, you like doing it, though, don't you?
it's a tough,
I didn't mind the first few years, then yeah.
it's a tough job, okay? I mean, I think having it rotate, I think it's also an educational process for council members. I think every
it
council
is.
member.
I think it's important. You learn a lot of stuff.
all right, well, then I make a motion that Mike Elam do it for 2017.
Second. But I mean, it is a learning process, and I think it's important for the feedback to the council. So, I mean, we can talk about this internally, but that's one of the reasons I did this, is try to rotate that through. I don't think a year at a time would
I'd
hurt
like further
anybody.
discussion on your motion.
Yeah,
There's other liaisons too that should be filled,
that's fine.
that are not being filled now.
Yep. Yep. So put it this way, I've sent you guys numerous emails on this stuff, feedback, Donna, and if you got other ways of doing it, but if not, I think the way we're doing it now,
Well, then you can
It's a
put in
little
there that everybody has to serve on one of those, some kind of a committee.
well, let's explain to the
we
automatic
gonna get to these
succession that
other
we
rules?
talked about.
No, we're gonna
okay?
stick on one first.
How it was gonna go before, we talked about doing, and this wasn't ironclad. We were gonna be, we'd go numerically through the districts. You'd serve planning and zoning for a year, you'd serve council chair or vice chair for a year, and then you move to council.
Right.
That was the thing. Now, those were just suggested nominations. If someone said, I don't want to be chair, I don't want to be vice chair, or I really like planning and zoning, I want to stay there for another year, we could go around that. That was just a way to try to get people to rotate in succession, okay? Now, if you don't like that, we can strike it, but I think in fairness to Dave, we need to look at some other way so that Dave doesn't end up doing 4 more years in planning and zoning commission.
I think we should just do it the same way to the council chair. We make a nomination to who's going to serve on P and Z. Seconded, all in favor, so go for it.
And yes, and I would like to nominate Joe Brazel for that. Since how many years you've been on the council and you've never served in that position, it's your turn, buddy. Okay?
Yeah, that's not a fair analysis, because
Yeah.
like I said,
Okay?
I mean,
And most of the problems are in your district.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, we're running.
I
We gotta
think
get,
we have-
okay, we got 15
we can
minutes.
We're
flip
still
a
on
coin,
fire.
I don't care.
Okay, 15 minutes. The other highlights, we've got 15 minutes. I'm going to turn this over to you because you know it better than I do. The other highlights of any major changes from the rules we've had before.
Rule 6 for the chair just adds that you can use the gavel to silence people that are not staying on topic or just
That's
getting
not really a
unruly.
new rule, though,
Yeah,
is
it's
it?
kinda
Yeah, I
always
just
been
think
there.
it wasn't really in here.
Right.
It's just clarifying.
Do we have a gavel?
Okay.
We do.
Also, just so you know, the public comments policy and the public comments cards, we're just trying to trial run tonight. We're not going to enforce them. We threw them out there. So later on in the meeting, you're going to see the rules for the county meetings up there. It's something that Donna and Carol have worked real hard on. Got a lot of stuff to go on. Yes.
I 100% agree with those. We need a more systematic way
Yep.
of addressing
Yep.
whose turn it is to talk.
So don't think
let's
that
go.
that's ironclad, what you see tonight. That is just a trial run. We're going to give
But
it a
if we're
try.
gonna do that, the chair needs to cut the person off when they're not following the rules, when they're up at the podium. That's, if we're gonna do it, we need to
We're going to
follow it.
roll that in softly, and we're going to try to follow that. That's the intent, okay? Other stuff.
In Rule 8, you have to have 2 members concur to send something to the county counselor's office.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that was designed to try to limit the workload for Mr. Hazelwood.
And there's
And
no
talk
red
to
herrings.
short-term.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think there's anything. in
yeah. Okay.
Skipping over to
Rule 13.
Rule 13, I think you already mentioned, you have to have 2 council members to place something on the agenda if the council chair doesn't want it on there.
That's good.
We have public presentations, which is brand new, and that just has to do with,
That's something that I've been doing along. It basically tries to eliminate work session when somebody comes in with a 10 or 15 minute spiel they want to give to us. You've been seeing those in the last 3 or 4 months. It eliminates a little work sessions.
and then
I
Mr.
think-
Klinghammer also wanted to have a physical copy, if possible, of something during the county exec's oral report, so we're
Or
trying
actually, any of the
to.
public presentations.
Right, so we're trying to get people to do that beforehand,
They've
so
been
you
doing
don't
a
have
pretty good
to.
job of that. Donna's been bugging them for that, and I think.
Well, like, for example, the parks one that we had just a couple weeks ago, they did a very long one. By the time it got projected up there, it was nearly impossible to read, especially
Sure.
the fine prints of it. And we went ahead and approved it without
Right.
really seeing what it was.
I think in general, I think what we want to do, and what we ask for is anything that's going to be presented to us like that, we want advanced copies to review it ahead of time
Right.
so we can ask questions and.
Exactly. I
and
think we can
inform.
ask much more intelligent questions
Sure.
if we see it beforehand rather than trying to shoot from the hip.
Okay.
And right now, it's the discretion of the chair, and I don't know if that's appropriate. Maybe it should be more of a discretion of the council as a whole as to what presentations we have.
Well, it's the same thing. If there's 2 council members who want the presentation, they get it.
Yeah,
right?
in general, John, I mean, for instance, somebody wanted to come in and give us a presentation on the Francis House school tax, proposal. I thought that was political, and I did use my discretion on that. We told them they could come talk at the 3-minute public comments, but we weren't gonna make part of our meeting that, okay? So, I mean, I think that's discretion is still in there, is it not, Megan?
Yes.
Okay, but I'm saying, what we're saying is, when we do have these public presentations, as a matter of form, we've been asking everybody to send that stuff through. Even like Scott Dreshnick, when he was here last week, he says, I'm sorry I didn't have a PowerPoint, I just want to talk to you about it. And I was fine with that. But when the information is available to us prior to the meeting, I mean, the council staff, you guys have been doing a good job getting that to us, so.
If we know there's a presentation, we try
Yeah.
to get it.
Same way with the summaries for most of the bills that have been coming through. I use the heck out of those summaries. I think that's something you've been seeing more and more. It's making things a little smoother.
But I don't
Okay.
think we should have,
Yeah, that's
feel
not-
obligated to have a presentation at every meeting.
No, we
But
don't.
if
No,
you
we're not.
comment on it.
We're not. We only have them when people come, and we've been only using them for meetings that are directly related to government.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
I think the last two big changes were public comments, Rule 16, which you just said, the speaker's card is new. And then at the very end, pretty much all of it is new. The work sessions, electronic attendance, voting, cell phone usage, and all that stuff's new.
And on cell phones, just so you know, that you can go into the standard, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, you can opt for the standard $40 a month, okay? But if you can document cell phone usage above that, you can bring that.
I'm going to throw out for consideration, we just say everybody gets the $40 if you want to take it, or don't give them an option at all. That just makes it too complicated. Everybody gets the same thing, it's $40. It's what all of the directors are doing. We shouldn't be any different.
I'm fine with that too, but I was just trying to make
$40
it,
for county employees, the $40 is an all-in deal. I mean, I don't think we do that, do we? Just the 40, yeah, I mean, if I have 80 bucks worth of charges in a given month, I'm getting 40.
Right.
okay.
So and then the use of cell phones, we're
Rule
scratching that,
32.
aren't we?
That's something that's up to you guys. I've seen before people trying to are contacting county councilmen about sway them on their votes at the county council meeting.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. I think that's inappropriate, but I mean, that's subject to debate. If you all don't like it, I can take it out of there.
I'd like it taken out.
I like it taken out
How
too.
Take it
about the
out.
rest of you? You want it out? We'll take that out too.
What about email? You guys have email during the course of the meeting.
You
So
do.
what's to keep somebody from messaging during the course of the meeting?
Well, he's trying to say you can't be on your cell phone during the meeting.
I'm not saying, no, put it this way.
A laptop.
I'm not
I'm just
necessarily,
saying,
if you're sending a text to your wife to find out what's for dinner tonight, I don't have any problem with that. I have a problem ethically when we're trying to make a decision and we're trying to listen to everything that's going on. Somebody outside the chamber is trying to influence a council.
But isn't that what we're supposed to, if you want to communicate, I don't do it, I don't.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, if you want to communicate with someone that may know more about something than you, what's wrong with that?
I think it's up to individual councilmen.
Then we'll just strike it.
Their own discretion.
If you all want to stroke, we'll strike it, okay?
I don't
Okay.
think you can enforce it anyway.
Yep.
you can't enforce it.
Okay.
It's a non-enforceable rule.
Okay,
That's what I was getting to. is that
Exactly.
You all have laptops up there and it's,
okay.
yeah.
And then, is there anything else that's major on this? Okay. Well, then, does anything anybody want to add to this that we haven't touched on?
No.
No? Then I tell you what we'll do is we'll take Bob's, I think, Bob, the general consensus, we stick to the $40, so you can work with Megan on how you want that worded, okay?
Bob, do we need a part in there that says, I think you added this, that there's a form that has to be approved by the council chair?
Yes. That there should be some past experience here. Amongst council members, I think there should be a central point of contact, and it should fall to the council chair, that if a council member is requesting a cell phone stipend, then the council chair signs off on it, and then it goes to processing in my office. Just so that there's a centralized,
I don't,
Okay.
huh?
we don't do that on expense accounts or anything else. Why on phones? I mean, we don't.
Tell you what,
I
why don't we
put it
just-
in there just,
Why don't we take the chair and just bring that over to staff? Donna handles them all anyway.
I know, right.
Okay? That's fine? And then
That's fine.
we're just going to make it the same as everybody else in the county and do it $40, okay? Is that what I'm hearing?
40 or, we have a 40 and a 20, depending on the level of usage, and whatever you feel.
We all
is
talk a
appropriate.
lot, as you can tell. We're at
Well, and the other thing too is besides that, we use our laptops at home a lot and the like,
Yeah.
so I think that's fine. And then, so basically, the draft rules that you have in here for the beginning, the red line stuff, you might want to tweak that a little bit with Mr. Statler to make sure that, we're in compliance with the policies. And Mr. Statler, when we get the final copy of this, we'd like to send this to you because I want to make sure we got an audit with no red boxes on it, okay? No yellows either, we want all greens, okay? So, anyway, and go from there. And then we'll strike the provisions we talked about, let you clean up the language with Bob, and then I think we're ready to move on with that. Are we good?
Yep.
We are.
Good with it? Okay.
I think it's good that you brought this forward and worked on it, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, she's done a bunch of work on it. Mr. Hazelwood's done a bunch of work. Mr. Elam and Mr. Klinghammer have done a bunch of work. Bob, Brent, Don and Carol,
went to that one
Mr.
meeting.
Dorman, this has been a group effort from a whole lot of people, but we're gonna get it
It's a
done.
good thing.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we got 2 minutes left. I just want to throw a couple more things at you real quick. In-home daycares.
I want to go through that real fast.
Okay, yes, sir.
I think we should follow some of the guidelines that the state has already set up for licensing. There should be a mechanism in there that if a community does not want it, that's built into it, so they can not permit it if they do not want it. It should also go along with our guidelines as far as our codes are, and just follow the same rules as what the state has already licensed. And also, I'd like to see it be a permitted use.
Permitted or?
Permitted use.
What, you mean not a conditional use?
No, permitted use. If anybody wants to open a daycare, there's guidelines how they do it. There's safeguards in it that if a community does not want it, a neighborhood, it's built into the rules where, people around them can vote on it, whether they're allowed to have it or not. So it's like their own governance as to whether they want a daycare in their subdivision or not.
If I can ask, if it's a permitted use, what would be the notification to the neighbors that there's even one going in until after it was already done?
Well,
The fact that they have to apply for the special...
well, that would be built into that particular rule for that permitted use.
That you have to give notification or
You have to
something
give notification to neighbors surrounding the area, so many feet. That was even a recommendation that was made by that gentleman that spoke before us a couple weeks ago. That way, there's a safeguard in case a neighborhood does not want it. It's, a daycare can't go into that neighborhood unless the neighborhood.
I agree with almost everything that you said, except increasing the limit of the number of children within it. That's the only part that gives me.
Yeah, here's what I'd like to do in that. I mean, right now, we're at 5, right? And
No,
state is at 10.
No, right now we're at
10.
8.
Right.
And with the age group, we're limited to 5. But if anything over that age limitation, they can have 10 by the state. They
John-
have 10 by the state now.
John, here's what I think might be a good way to proceed with it. Megan's done a lot of work, and Donna and Carol have polled the other communities. It seems like you're very interested in this. Why don't you take the lead on this? And why don't you send out to the council different options as you see them, okay? Like the permitting, how many, what the number's going to be. And then let's try to get it worked towards a consensus, and if we need another work session, that will be the next chair in
You
January.
guys are not supposed to be doing that stuff over email. I keep telling you that. You cannot be
As long as
doing.
you copy the council.
You're supposed to, it says subject to sunshine.
Now,
You-
what we're talking about is discussion, and we're asking for ideas, okay? Right, Mr. Elton?
Keith just had a good idea about looking at maybe make it a per square foot. If you got a big house, you can have a few more kids,
You have a small house, and you're taking care of 10 kids, you maybe ask.
That's a good work.
But the other thing I was gonna ask, John, if you consider just
Completely
kind of leaving it the way it is, but expanding the remonstrance process? Right now, the remonstrance, people have to live on the same street or something, don't they? Within a certain distance. But you could go ahead and say, if you get half the people or something within a certain area or a certain number of people, then you need 5 votes or 6 or 7.
But it doesn't hurt anything.
Do it after the
They
meeting.
can do it after we're done.
Done. Okay. Well, I tell you what, this is going to be a tough issue to work through, so.
We're not gonna get it done in 5
One other
minutes.
miscellaneous that I want to touch on before we leave.
Yes, sir.
And that is, remember when one of our citizens came before us, Chet Bodeke, and talked about the no-throw rule? And, like you have the no-call? want to see how the council feels about having a no-throw ordinance. If a person does not want to have advertisement thrown onto their property, they can request that it isn't. Would the council support an ordinance that would address that?
I would support it if it was enforceable. And I look over to our,
Chris Hunt will be in charge of enforcement of that.
How are you gonna do that? How you
What's a newspaper?
I mean, how many rules you wanna make?
That's what my son asked me the other day.
Yeah, okay. All right, since we got a couple of minutes, I would like Mr. Elman's comments as a private citizen on the council rules.
I can look at them and give you some comments.
Yeah, we'd like.
I did read them, though.
Yeah,
My biggest comment is there were some things in there that you ought to do this or ought to do that. If you only ought to do it, it's not a rule.
okay, okay. Well,
That would be, that's the thing that I remember most about reading it.
please give us your input. We've already got some from Bob as a
Okay.
former council member, so what input you got, we appreciate.
Okay.
get 7 o'clock, get it over